Chapter 5, Test Review. Find the unit rate. My family drove 230 miles in 5 hours. So I'm going to write this as a rate, so 230 miles over 5 hours, and my unit rate, I need it to be 1 hour, so I'll divide by 5 and divide by 5, and my family drove 46 miles in 1 hour, and that's my unit rate. Solve the proportion. So when I see that proportion, I'm going to cross multiply. And when I cross multiply 19 times 14.2, I get 269.8 equals 5a. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 5, and I get 53.96 equals a. 53.96. Find the missing measure if the shapes are similar. Alright, so I've got two similar shapes here. The first thing I want to do is identify what side am I looking for. And I'm looking for CD. And then I need to decide which side is corresponding with CD. And so if I look at these shapes, I'm going to have to kind of tip this shape up in order to look like this one. And so CD is corresponding with NM. Now I have to say, okay, I have lots of other measures. So I've used CD and MN, and if I look back at the trapezoid, ABCD, I have lots of measures. So I need to find a measure that corresponds with another measure. So if I look at this trapezoid, 4 meters is the only one, and so I need to find the one that corresponds with NO, and the one that corresponds with NO is CB. And now I plug in my numbers. X over 3 equals 10 over 4. And then I cross multiply. 30 equals 4x. Divide by 4, divide by 4. 7.5 meters equals x. Use unit rates to see which is the best buy. So I need to turn each of these into a unit rate. So the first one I'm going to say, okay, it's 20 ounces for $2.99. But I want to know how much it is for 1 ounce. So I divide by 20, divide by 20, and I get 0.1495, so it's money. So I'm going to round to the nearest cent. So I get 0.15 or 15 cents. So the second one I'm going to set up, and I'm going to do the same thing. 24 ounces over $3.69. So I divide both of those numbers by 24, divide by 24, and that gives me 1 ounce costs, and I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth again, 15 cents. Now I need to go back and look at my calculator, and I need to put down some extra numbers because they're the same. So this one I still have on my calculator, it's 154. And if I go back and do 2.99 divided by 20, I get 0.145. 1495. And so then I can actually see that that one is actually a little bit lower. Then I'm going to do the third one, 40 ounces over $5.49. And I want to know how much is 1 ounce. So I divide by 40, divide by 40. So I do 5.49 divided by 40 in my calculator, and I get 0.13. And so I can see that the last one has the best value. So you need to somehow mark on your test 40 ounces is the best buy. You have to tell me which one is the best buy. Use a proportion to solve. Okay, so Mrs. Lara can make 15 cookies in 24 minutes. So I'm going to put 15 cookies over 24 minutes. And I'm going to set that equal to another proportion. It says at the same rate, how long would it take her to make 70 cookies? So units On the top and bottom must match, and I'm looking for how many minutes. And then I cross multiply. So on my calculator, I do 70 times 24. I get 1680 equals 15x. I divide both sides by 15, and x equals 112 minutes. Find the unit rate. Okay, so I'm going to set it up 348 pages in 5 days. And a unit rate, I want to know how many pages in 1 day. So I divide by 5, and I get 69.6 pages, almost 70 pages per day. Use a proportion to solve. Okay, so it says he sneezes 11 times in 5 hours, and it wants to know how many times he sneezes in 2 days. Well, this is a little problem because my unit here is times, my unit here is hours. So what do I do with 2 days? Well, that's talking about how much time, and so it's going to go down here on the bottom, but I need my units to match. So I need to figure out, well, how many hours is 2 days? Well, 1 day is 24 hours, so 2 days are 48 hours. And we want to know how many times he would sneeze in those 48 hours. So I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to go here and here. So I get 5x over here equals 528. Divide both sides by 5. And x equals 105.6 times, or 105.6 sneezes would be an acceptable unit as well. Find the missing measure if the shapes are similar. Okay, so again, we're going to start with that side we don't know. So I'm going to put CB over, and which side is it corresponding with? It corresponds with PO. And then I'm going to go back to the shape where the X is. And say, okay, here's another side I know, AB. And which side corresponds with AB? ON. And now I plug in the numbers. So I say X over 15 equals 12 over 8. And then I cross multiply. So I do 12 times 15 and X times 8. So I get 180 equals 8x. And then I divide both sides by 8. And I get 22.5. And my unit is meters. And that equals x. Solve the proportion. I'm going to cross multiply. So I get 5m equals 132. Divide by 5. M equals, divide both sides by 5, 26.4. Use unit rates to see which is the best buy. I'm going to solve this just like the one before. So I have 10 apples for $2.89. But I want to know what's the unit rate for 1 apple. And so I'm going to divide by 10, divide by 10. So I do 2.89, divide by 10, and I get 0.29, rounded to the nearest hundredth. I have 18 apples over $5.99, but I want to know how much is 1 apple. So I divide by 18 and divide by 18. And I get, rounded to the nearest hundredth, 0.33. And then I have 25 apples for $6.99. But I want to know the unit rate, how much is 1 apple. So I divide by 25, divide by 25. So I do 6.99, divide by 25, and I get 0.28. And so I compare those, and I see that if I buy 25 apples, that is the best unit price. Use a proportion to solve. Okay, so Claire can pick 9 flowers in 5 minutes, and I'm going to set up my proportion, and I'm going to say how long will it take her to pick 25 flowers in X minutes. And then I'm going to cross multiply, so I have 9x equals 125, and I'm going to divide both sides by 9, and I get x equals, and I'm going to round to the nearest tenth, so 13.9 minutes, because I want to know how long. Find the missing measurement. Alright, so Mark is building a scale model of the Statue of Liberty. The statue's torch is 5 2/5 feet tall. He's using a scale. That's the first thing I put down. 1 inch is equal to 1/2 foot. And then I say, okay, I don't know how long his torch is going to be on the model, but in real life I know that it's 5 2/5 feet. And then I'm going to cross multiply. And so over here I have 0.5x, because we can change it to a decimal. And over here I have 1 times 5 2/5, which is 5.4. I'm going to divide both sides by 0.5, and x is going to equal 10.8 inches. And so that's how tall the torch would be on his model. Find the missing measure if the shapes are similar. Again, find your x. So I have mn over, and which side corresponds with mn? YZ. And that's going to be equal to, I go back to this triangle with the x, and I see I have 2 more measures. So I've already used this measure, and so I need to find the one that corresponds with the 20. So ON over XZ. And now I plug in my numbers. So I have x over 12 equals, ON is 45 over 20. Cross multiply, 20x equals, and I do 12 times 45, and I get 540. I divide both sides by 20, sorry. Divide by 20, and x equals 27, and my unit is centimeters. Use a proportion to solve. Okay, Maddie can type 56 words in 2 minutes. And at the same rate, how many words? So x words can she type in 25 minutes. So we cross multiply. So 2x equals 56 times 25, 1400, divide by 2, and x equals 700 words. That's how many she could type in 25 minutes. Solve the proportion. Okay, so we're going to cross multiply. So I get 135 equals 4k. Divide both sides by 4, and k equals 33.75. Find the missing measure. In the blueprint of a house, the living room is 8 3/4 centimeters wide. The scale is 1 centimeter to 2 feet. I always start with my scale, and then I say now on the drawing it's 8 3/4 centimeters, and I want to know how many feet it is in real life. So I'm going to multiply across, so 1 times x is x. In my calculator I'm going to put 8.75 multiplied by 2 is 17.5, and that's my final answer. I just need my unit. It's 17.5 feet. Find the missing measure if the shapes are similar. Alright, so again, find what we don't know. So here's my x. So I have AB over VW, and then I look for what I know. Well, there's two other measurements that I know, but only one over here. So what side corresponds with XW? CB. So CB over XW, and now I plug in my numbers. X over 4 equals 3 over 10. Cross multiply, 12 equals 10x, divide by 10, 1.2 inches equals x. Use a proportion to solve. Nicholas can read 18 pages in the same amount of time it takes Andrew to read 15 pages. So we have 18 pages for Nicholas over 15 pages for Andrew. And then I want to know at the same rate, how many pages can Nicholas read? So X pages for Nicholas when Andrew reads 200 pages. And now I cross multiply. So I get 15x equals, and I do 18 times 200 is 3,600. I divide both sides by 15, and x equals 240 pages for Nicholas. Name the corresponding parts of the similar figures. I remember corresponding parts have angles and sides, and it depends on what kind of shape of how many they have. These are pentagons, so they have 5 corresponding angles and 5 corresponding sides. So I'm going to start with the angles. Yours might be in a different order, that's fine. Angle A corresponds with angle O. Angle B corresponds with angle P. Angle C corresponds with angle Q. Angle D corresponds with angle N. Remember, we're looking for that same position. And then the last one, angle E and angle M. All right, and then my sides. Remember, yours could be named a little bit differently. So I'm just going to kind of go around the pentagon. So AB, don't forget that line above it. AB corresponds with OP. BC corresponds with PQ. CD corresponds with QN. DE corresponds with NM. And then the last one, EA, corresponds with MO. Okay? And remember that all of these corresponding angles are congruent to one another. They have an equal measure. And all of these corresponding sides are proportional to one another. Use a proportion to solve. Okay, Aiden can jump rope 32 times in 45 seconds. And I want to know how many times he can jump rope. Uh-oh, be careful. In 2 minutes. I need to figure out how many seconds that is. There's 60 seconds in 1 minute, so there's 120 seconds in the other minute. The only time we need to change units is if they don't quite match. Alright, so now I'm going to solve my proportion. So I'm going to do 32 times 120 and 45 times x. So I get 45 equals 3,840. I'm going to divide both sides by 45, and x equals, I'm going to round to the nearest tenth, 85.3 times. You can jump rope that many times in 2 minutes. Find the missing measurement. Ella's drawing a scale drawing of Palo Alto. Palo Alto is 7.2 miles wide. Ella uses a scale, 1 inch to a quarter mile. That's what we always start with in those proportions. And then we want to know how long it is or how wide it is on our drawing if it's 7.2 miles wide in real life. So I'm going to do x times 1/4 or 0.25x equals 7.2. I'm going to divide both sides by 0.25. Divide by 0.25, and x equals 28.8 inches.